Okay, so today we're going to be talking about rhythm changes. So what are rhythm changes? Well, originally they came from the tune I Got Rhythm by George Gershwin, written in the 1930s. Now, this is a set of chord changes that became really popular amongst jazz musicians, so that jazz musicians started writing their own melodies to these chord changes. Eventually, they became known as rhythm changes. So we're going to work on the chords today. There are many different melodies you can play over rhythm changes, such as anthropology, oleo, rhythmoning. There are tons of different rhythm changes tunes. But first, we're just going to learn the chords today. We're going to be in the key of B flat because this is the most common key for rhythm changes. So we're going to start off with a really basic chord progression, 1, 6, 2, 5. We start with our 1 chord, B flat. Now typically the 6th chord is minor, but we're going to change it into a dominant 7th chord. Then we have the 2 chord and the 5 chord. So this is a typical turnaround, and it's used a lot in rhythm changes. So here's the first 4 measures of rhythm changes. Very simple, okay? It's just 1, 6, 2, 5. Each chord gets 2 beats. So there are 2 chords per measure here. Okay, and we do that twice. So after that, we have, we're gonna be going to the 4 chord, okay? So in the key of B flat, we have E flat is the 4 chord, or E flat major 7. Now, we're gonna get there via a 2, 5, 1. So it's gonna look like this. Okay, so that's a 2, 5, 1 going to E flat, going to the 4 chord. The 2 is F minor 7. The 5 is B flat 7. And the 1 is E flat major 7. Okay, once we get to the 4 chord, you have a couple different options. You can go up a half step and play a diminished chord, or what we're going to do is we're going to make that 4 chord minor. And we're going to play it as a minor 6 chord. So it's going to be E flat minor 6. Really cool, interesting shape there. So let's take it back from the beginning. We're going to go 1, 6, 2, 5. We're going to play that twice, do a 2, 5, 1 to the 4 chord, and then make that minor. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now at this point, we could do our 1, 6, 2, 5 again, but we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to do a 3, 6, 2, 5. So we're going to change that B flat to a D minor 7th. It's not that big of a change, nothing too crazy yet. So it's going to sound like this. That's 3, 6, 2, 5. And again, we're keeping that 6 as the dominant 7th chord. That happens a lot in rhythm changes. Happens a lot in jazz tunes in general. We turn that 6 into a dominant 7th chord whenever it wants to go to the 2 chord, or whenever it resolves to the 2 chord. In this case, the 2 chord is C minor. Okay, so that is our first A section of rhythm changes. Rhythm changes is an A-A-B-A song form or structure, and we just played the first A section. So we've got the majority of the tune right there. The second A section is almost exactly the same thing. The only difference is going to be the end. We're not going to play a turnaround. We're just going to play a 1, 5, 1 at the end. Okay, so that's going to be the end of the second A section. So here's the second A. I'm going to play through the entire second A section. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your second A. All right, so now at this point, we get to the B section, or the bridge. Now the B section is entirely different, but it's pretty simple. It's only a few chords, and it's going to be going around the circle of fifths. They're all going to be dominant seventh chords. And you're going to see that we're going to end on the F7, and that's going to get us back to our A section, okay? So we're going to be starting on the 3 chord, which is D. But again, we're making all these dominant seventh chords. So we have D7, that's going to resolve to a G7. And then that's going to resolve to C, in this case C7, which is going to resolve to F7. Okay, so you can think of it as a 3, 6, 2, 5, but all of them are dominant chords. Okay, so this is a very characteristic thing of rhythm changes. The bridge has these dominant seventh chords going around the circle of fifths. Now, there are plenty of variations for this, but we're not going to get into that today. We're just talking about the basic chord structure of rhythm changes. So each one of these chords, it's going to be 2 measures each in the bridge, and it's a little bit easier to play, but maybe a little bit more difficult to solo over if you're not used to changing keys. In the A section, you can primarily play a B flat major scale, and you'll be okay for most of those chords. But in this bridge, you're going to have to adapt to each one of these chords. So you might want to start with learning the Mixolydian mode and practicing the Mixolydian mode over each one of these chords. So let's go through the chords again for the bridge. We're going to play each chord for 2 measures, okay? Starting with D7. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go, that's the bridge. Pretty simple. Now, I should say this, rhythm changes are typically played quite fast. So we're going through this at a slow tempo right now so you can learn, but once you get all this down and you have this memorized, you want to try it at faster tempos, okay? So rhythm changes are rarely played at a slow tempo. Most of those tunes I mentioned earlier are pretty quick. Okay, so let's get back into the final A section. Luckily, this is the same as the first A section, so you really don't have to learn anything new. But let's just play it again just to have a refresher here. So we're going to start with our 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. We end on the F7 chord because at that point we're gonna go back to the beginning of the tune, or the top, and play everything again. So typically in rhythm changes, you would go through the tune at least 1 time, playing the melody, whichever melody you're playing, and then you would take solos, and then at the end, come back with the melody. So there you go. That's the chords to rhythm changes. Pretty simple. It's not as complicated as it seems at first, but you definitely want to practice this because it's a very important song format or song template, just like the blues or 12-bar blues. It's almost as important as the 12-bar blues, so you definitely want to get this down and at least be able to play it in the key of B flat, which is the most common key. All right, thanks for watching. If you want a PDF of this, you can check out my Patreon. I'll have a link above and in the description below.